If you can't tell, I'm watching Avatar right now.
I mean,
Like this. I mean, yeah, there is really a lot of depth in this insight. Just telling you that much. I really have to like get it off my chest because like it's just unbelievably powerful. I came back to look at four personalities to kind of reestablish this for sure. And I'm pretty sure like the acceptive and passive, these are female features, you can say, and being rejective and active are male features. The left versus right is again, you have a bunch of women creating feminism and all kind of gender nonsense to try and give consent to little kids if they wanted to. Obviously, protecting people's consent is pretty important, and allowing them to change all these different things in their lives, including gender, to not be afraid being afraid of gender. It's really weird stuff right there. I would say you should be afraid of being afraid. Like that's just normal. And all the gender fluidity I say is a fear. Unless you want to embrace that fear, you still kind of have to accept your gender, like whatever. You don't have to focus on it. You don't have to embrace your or plague your personality because of it. Again, four personalities, they slightly would depend on gender, but do you have to plague your personalities? You probably don't. You have to make a choice. I made a choice. My personality is not 100% male or female. I'm reject passive. I think. I hope maybe I'm accept passive and reject active. It probably is. Wait, yeah, it probably is accept passive. Probably is the most female you can get. And why Lauren Southern has a meme around her that she's kind of being too male ish, has a personality. Everyone says it's a he. Well, not only she's on the right, and she's surrounded by these psychological, philosophical rather, and political viewpoints. Left is not necessarily political. What left is doing is actually just ignoring criticism and using criticism against the right. And right, the only thing the right is trying to do is throw criticism, right? They're trying to convince, right? Because they have collected all this knowledge, so now they use it as a power instead of something that brings balance. And the most critical hit part was that criticism is illegal. That right actually does something wrong. Imagine that. That is a really unpopular idea. That is an unpopular idea times 24 or something. Some big number right there. Nobody knows about. Even the left doesn't understand the consequence, even though they understand the idea itself. I mean, it comes from left, but I had to filter it out because they're the ones fighting back after all, and I just have to remind you guys I hate women. Obviously, it's somewhat of a trauma for me because I have wrote a book and hinted at a girl back in my high school. That was like the most traumatic part. Being rejected, being so shy to express that I like someone, but I don't know what to do, so I'm just like curious, and nobody actually told me what to do, so like, oh my god. Do you understand how I got into the position and how hateful I was of everyone to not actually properly explain of what am I supposed to do? And now, obviously, as I am growing up, I realize there are so many standards that everyone expects you to follow that I'll gonna go against everything. I will have to fucking unleash my anger at this point. The first thing I say is I hate women. But what am I gonna be willing to do about it? I don't know. But one thing I will do is I will keep my enemies closer than my friends. The left is who I am, even though it's my enemy. It's also who I am, sadly, but I have to accept that. I accept that I know much more about how left works in the first place. The reason why I think it's accept passive my personality is the earth is supposed to be much more stronger than water, much more deeper. The water's not necessarily on either side. It's trying to be accept and passive, active, meaning that it can still move around. Right, water can still move around. If you being accept and passive, you're totally still. You can't do anything. You're paralyzed, like a rock. And then the opposite happens with fire. You have to be reject active in order to be true fire, right? Or truly rejective, you have to be also active. Okay, let me try again. So to be truly acceptive of something, you have to be passive. You have to let it slide into your consciousness, right? You have to be like, it's not a big deal. Earth is flat. It's just not a big deal. I'm not even going to bring it up to you. I'm just gonna constantly repeat that it is what it is, what I think it is, and I'll just let it accept myself. If I'm being active on what I accept, that is just not necessarily acceptance. That is a doubt. And you can have doubts, and that's fine if you're exploring, if you're finding new things. That's what water personality expresses. Honesty of personalities. You have to honestly understand where the knowledge lies. Which position is your knowledge at? So again, I slowly accepted a lot of things. As my personality wants me to do, I accept as many things as I possibly can to accept like reality as a whole. And that's a very interesting and useful thing for the future, but not necessarily now. People won't really appreciate what I'm doing just yet. But one thing they can appreciate is that I will predict what's going to happen in the future, or what steps we have to take for the future to occur. That is important. After all, I'm one of the 4 elements, so I can provide friendship for a lot of you guys who don't have the element that I possess. And I have to bring it on even further that yes, you have just one element. You cannot possess all of them. However, it is possible to create perfect ego on a surface level, to have an ability. Just like being an avatar, you can actually control elements to a certain degree, right? And you need that for some reason. Now, the reason why you need that is so you could be honest, at least on a surface level. So you can protect yourself, you can express yourself, you can have all these abilities on a surface level, and it will get rid of all bad luck, basically. It will get rid of all bad relationships. You will stabilize your life. But most importantly, the golden rule, the critical hit part that I wanted to talk about. And I didn't know that I wanted to talk about it until it hit me. Until the critical hit me and connected all the dots together. The critical part is consent. I have mentioned it before, but I will explain exactly what it is. As I've said, the perfect ego is required for you to be honest on a surface level. If you're capable of being honest on the surface level, actually I'm gonna say this. Honesty is more important than consent. However, perfect ego, I think, is what consent is what you let inside yourself, inside your, well, let's say soul. Because whatever you live through, whatever you let your life give you, that's consent. You have to be a gatekeeper of yourself first to pass through the gatekeeper into a community. Communities cannot operate on people who have no perfect ego, who have no control of their consent. Also, consent is a skill. This is a skill required for you to master within a society. As long as you don't have a consent or perfect ego, we have to have a society, or you have to stay in a society until you figure out what it is, and then you can move on to the next step. This is also the critical part because, well, this is a ninja school, and I basically am telling you exactly what you need to know. Right now it's like the first lesson ever, guys. After 35 episodes, this is the first lesson that you need to learn. Crazy, right? So, yeah, babies and children, they slowly develop consent, they don't actually have any. And yes, proposing genders on them is like what does that mean, right? You still have to teach the baby what it is. You have to put effort into teaching all different things, and you have this, and you could be fearing a gender. You could want to embrace a personality that is against your gender. Like, all these things have to be explored. Left have to shut the fuck up. Should it? Well, not necessarily. I mean, I'm learning a lot of things because of that, but it has to be filtered. And it is disgusting to just apply it at face value. And the left is doing what, like, again, banning Alex Jones is just crazy. It's crazy, and they will never open themselves up to criticism, just like the right will not open themselves to criticism. They think they can be open to criticism, but, like, come on, right? If I could talk to a person on the right, I would destroy them. Like, it's so easy. But I won't be able to. I won't be able to reach out to them. Not anytime soon. And when I do reach out to them, well, we'll see what happens. I can't say for sure. That's another thing. And that's going to be the last thing that I'm going to mention. Consent is tied to experience. So buying things or buying experience, buying service, taking service. Again, this is very consensual things to do. You have to know what's going to happen. And the only way you can know is through experience, right? You have to make sure that the service provided is, in fact, safe, is in fact what you consent to, what you like, right? And you can repeat that over and over again. Once you get used to that, that's what your goal usually is to get a taste and then start repeating, start creating a habit. Personalities are also habits, by the way. So, yeah, just a reminder as well. Society, and as I say, you need to learn consent. You need friendships. Friendships have to be diverse, meaning that you will get all these different elements. Not the color of the skin, that's diversity. Absolutely not. It's personalities that matter. So if you can find a different personality and you can make friends with them easily, like it should make sense. It should quickly make sense that you have something to learn from that other person. And that's what friendships are about. Right? It's just a learning process. You just have to respect that person for what he has that's different from you, and that it's useful to you, and that you want to learn these things. Like, okay, this guy has a nice life, this guy has a girlfriend, got a good relationship, this guy has a lot of skill, like whatever, right? You make these friends, you figure out what these people are good at, and you respect that, and that's what you follow in a society. Now, what I did, instead of following my friends, I followed, yes, I did consider them, and they were really valuable to me. They gave me a really valuable experience, but over time I have distanced myself from my friends, and I looked into the internet for even more value, because there was so much value dumped in the internet, and there's so many friendships that I could make over the internet. Even watching Avatar is somewhat like a friendship. You have to look at it that way. As long as you really care of what the message is, and you're really listening to the message itself and not the reviews or anything, you first have to like it, right? And when you like it, you just take the experience as it is. Because everyone else is just going to spoil the experience at this point, right? That's what spoilers are. I should write it down. It's a shitty way to put it grammatically, but basically what spoilers do is just review what you already like. That's how to spoil a content. You just talk about something that you already like you should just take it for what it is, right? Until you don't like it anymore. Obviously, if there's something bad to say, that's when you have to kind of give advice that you shouldn't watch something, or you shouldn't take some kind of insight seriously. Like, these sort of little criticisms are very important for a review. But other than that, spoiling or talking about it, or trying to tease, I guess, teasing, so again, you also need friends to give you experience in terms of what services to take, right? Otherwise you're going to get scammed, easily scammed, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen when you fall off a cliff. This is why it's possible to say something that I did in a previous episode, where you can consent yourself to rape, to be raped. How is that possible? You can consent yourself to be shot. Is that violence? Yes, it is violence, by the way. To kill yourself is violence. It is violence against all the people that love you. Absolutely, it's violence. But if you live in hatred, you are emitting more violence. It's always about not no violence, but minimization of violence and honesty. The most important part is honesty and consent. That's the golden rule. Everything else derives from this rule. There's nothing more important than this. This is where everything starts, right? This is where the waters are and how societies work at the very beginning. And then we can move to communities. And this is why communism was such a bad idea, because nobody knew how to make it work. Now I know, and I know it's not going to work for a long time. People have to be tested, whether they have perfect egos or not. I only have a perfect ego here, making this video. In the real world, I'm shy and I'm powerless to do anything. I can't say anything to anyone. I'm totally paralyzed in my own thoughts. And I cannot be honest. I'm overpowered. And I'm scared, to be honest. So, one interesting quark out of all of this that spawns an entire new topic is that government was trying to replace friendship as much as possible. Government was trying to be a friend all along. And it's pretty interesting. Also that in the future we're going to have this open to criticism thing. This is the next step after Battle Royale. After everyone has done their battles and try to become popular as much as they can. We have this open to criticism where it's not necessarily the companies are going to be open to criticism, but they're going to follow the people's ideas that, yes, we want only companies who are open to criticism to, to operate. If I can make reviews, but bad reviews, if I can be honest whether I like the content or I dislike the content, that's the stuff that we want to see. This is again a 10-year cycle for open to criticism. We're going to see better platforms after 5 years. I'm hoping, right, that this is going to be the case, because there's a lot of debate between left and right, and neither of them are open to criticism. So one good way of figuring out who is actually capable of being popular, of actually deserving attention, are the people who are going to be open to criticism. It's not necessarily the platforms that are going to get notoriety first. Again, the pyramid itself is going to flip. Like the whole clock is going to flip. The moment it's 4.1, quite a bit, but not too much. Just the company is going to be immediately replaced afterwards. Like YouTube is going to hold on for like 10 years. That's the idea, and they're going to hold on as hard as they can. But I don't think YouTube is going to survive after the 15-year cycle. But anyways, so we have this open to criticism. It covers a lot of things. Again, if I don't like food that I just ate, I just send a bad review, a really bad review, and I criticize them, and they have to respond to that criticism. That's what open to criticism means. Yes, I shouldn't be able to criticize too many times a day. I should just have 5 criticisms to different places, and at the same time, those criticisms have to be answered. They must be answered. And I can say that whether it was a reasonable counter criticism or not, whether I'm satisfied or not after I receive it, or I can continue the discussion, right? I'm not sure exactly what the rules are supposed to be, but those rules seem very attractive to me, and I would want to play around with those. So that's what I want to see happen. But until then, I'm pretty busy. So you guys, I hope you've learned all these things, because these are crazy important. This is like the core of everything, and I don't think I'm gonna return to critical hit anymore. Like this series is over. I found it. The golden rule has been found. And in terms of, it's not about founding it, but defining it, what matters, connecting all the dots. Anyways, see you guys next time.